medical registration, full medical registrations in Tamil Nadu, UK, and Nigeria. Presently, he is a consultant pediatric cardiologist and fetal cardiologist in Apollo Group of Hospitals since 2011. And his voluntary work is working towards to reduce road traffic accidents in India, and you can visit that website to know more about it. He's got many presentations in national and international conferences, and he's also an examiner in MRCPH. Over to you, sir.
Good evening, everyone. If you can't hear me, please let me know. I'm going to share my screen.
Sir, your volume is low. If you can make it better, we would prefer it, sir.
Sure. Is it better now?
Yes, sir. Clearer.
Okay. So I'm going to share my screen. If you are unable to see my screen, please let me know, madam.
Sure.
Can you see my screen, madam?
No, not yet. Not yet. Yeah, it is starting to share. Yes, we can see it now. Yes, we can see it now.
Yes. So if I'm just going to, if you can't see my next slide, please let me know, madam.
Sure.
And if you can't hear me also, please let me know.
Okay, definitely.
Okay. So I think it's an extensive talk, and to a speaker in IMA Kodambakam, it's well known for its academic activities. I'm very happy to share for next 30 minutes about a common diseases in children heart problem, and at the end we can have the questions. So generally, if you see the heart diseases in children, the presentations to a general practitioner will be the following sections. So number one, it's an antenatal diagnosis. Sometimes you may get the report from their fetal ultrasound and they say problem with their heart. Second thing, they come with the problem with the blue babies, like the saturations may be low. And sometimes you may see the similar problems with the tachypnea, so breathing fast. Children may come with a breathing fast and failure to thrive and the murmur over the precordium. Sometimes they may have the femoral pulse will be absent, and palpitations and abnormal rhythm, loss of consciousness, and cardiomegaly on chest radiogram. These are the common things you see in your clinic with the children having problem with the heart. If you see any of these 9 presentations, you have to suspect the child may have problem with the heart. So, pediatric cardiology is the misnomer. Actually, as a pediatric cardiologist, we tend to see sometimes children up to the age of not only 17, even we see in our clinics as adults. Sometimes we see even adults, because this specialty, it starts from the fetus, from the 5 months of gestation till the even adult, because adult even can have the problem with the heart, and they may have the problem with the birth problem persistent in the adult and not treated one. So it's aptly can call pediatric cardiology as a congenital cardiac services, and few acquired diseases we see, for example rheumatic fever, Kawasaki disease, and some children with having systemic diseases that indirectly affects the heart. So it's basically it consists of congenital cardiac services and the acquired diseases of up to 70 years. So what are the symptoms of the cardiac birth defects in the children? So as I mentioned earlier, my first slide, there will be 9 presentations, but now I divided into, so you may be seeing as a small babies having the heart problem, and you may be seeing a children and adolescents having the symptoms. So following problems, if you see in a small baby or children, you suspect there may be a heart problem in the child. Poor weight gain and the blue babies, feeding difficulties and breathing difficulties. These things are going to be very obvious. The mother is going to say, child is not gaining weight and not feeding well and breathing fast. So these are the symptoms. If you see in a small baby, you suspect there may be a problem with the heart in children. Other thing you have to just to see in children or adolescents, whenever you see a child with the joint swelling and fever, you suspect heart problem. And then if they complain a chest pain, even though chest pain is a symptom of heart, but only 3% to 4% of the chest pain complaining children is having real heart problem. So the 97% to 98% of the children who complains of chest pain is not from the heart. And they may complain their heart is beating fast, and some children will present with a loss of consciousness. That may be a problem with either with the neurology or with the cardiology, or so that may be a systemic problem. So whenever you see a child and adolescent with these following 4 problems, you have to suspect there may be a problem with the heart. So the divide, it's very simple. It's pediatric cardiology is one of the simple specialty of the pediatrics. So whenever you see small babies and children with these 4 presentations, you suspect the heart problem. Whenever you see the children and adolescents with these presentation, you suspect there may be a problem with the heart. Yes, so this slide is showing the symptoms and signs of the child with the heart problem. So once you remember only this slide, that's enough. You don't really remember anything about the pediatric cardiology. You can very easily you can pick up these pediatric cardiac problems whenever you have these problems. So the first problem is a feeding difficulty. The second one you can see a clubbing, and third one there is a tiredness, and the steps they're using, there may be a murmur and child having a palpitations, a recurrent chest infection, loss of consciousness, cyanosis, and there is having some crazy tooth. So if you have this one slide, if you are able to remember, you can pick up all the pediatric cardiac problems in the children. Yes. So now we got the murmur over the precordium. So generally, maybe people are always worried about if I can't hear that murmur, if I miss that murmur, what will happen? So nothing will happen. So I can reassure you, the murmur is the least important sign in pediatric cardiology. Even though the stethoscope is the important one, but as a pediatric cardiology, we give very least importance to the stethoscope. So stethoscope is going to be the very least important. The symptoms and signs, whatever I mentioned in my previous slide, that's all important. As long as child is not gaining weight, child is breathing fast, child having feeding difficulties, these are the important symptoms to pick up pediatric cardiac problems rather than the murmur. So in paradoxically, if you hear a murmur in the children, so they have less serious problem than somebody if you can't hear the murmur at birth. So more than 50% of the problems in pediatric cardiology, the newborn will present without a murmur. If you hear a murmur, then you're going to hear a murmur and you're going to refer to pediatric cardiologist. If you can't hear a murmur and the baby is doing well, then how we are going to pick up the problem? So hearing the murmur will be less serious in children, newborn babies, than the murmur without the murmur. So when it comes to the adolescents and pediatric age group, it's very quite common hearing the murmur. So there is almost 70% of the children will have a murmur at some point of their life, and it's a very concern. Not only the family, it's the physician. You may be like initially when you started your practice, whenever you hear a murmur and you refer to the pediatric cardiologist. But as time goes, so you may start to refer these cases and you may be having a red, you start to see more symptoms and signs, then you may not refer the cases to the pediatric cardiologist. Whenever you are evaluating somebody with a murmur or the precardium, you have to take an history, as I mentioned, and physical examination to see other things like a cyanosis, clubbing. These are the very important signs to pick up. And so if you are in doubt, we may need to do some investigations. That you can do a chest X-ray to see the size of the heart, and in case if they have any problem with the if you think there is a problem, then you can refer for the echocardiogram. So, as I mentioned earlier, the newborn, the murmurs will be pathological. Some pathological conditions may not have murmur at all. So, there the importance will come, the importance, the importance of what you're going to have, the pulse oximeter saturation and baby's breathing pattern and femoral pulse. These are the three things are going to help you if you're going to see a newborn baby with heart problem. So you see for the saturation and you see for the breathing pattern and you see for the femoral pulse. These are the things going to help in the newborn period if you have a murmur and how you're going to evaluate. And again, the murmur present at different times. You never worried about if you miss the murmur. You can easily say like, when I hear that time there is no murmur. It's possible because when the baby is born, if you have the VSD, the pressures are equal in both right ventricle and left ventricle, suggestive of there will be no murmur. Only the pressure drops in the right ventricle, the murmur will appear. So it's I don't want you to miss the murmurs, but even if you miss the murmur, you really don't need to worry about it. That's the whole point. So as a practitioner, you assess the child, and even if you miss, somebody comes to you and says, yes, I missed this murmur, but you don't really need to say that one, because you can say that time there was no murmur, because it's possible. This all happens because of the pulmonary vascular resistance across the both ventricles. Innocent murmurs. Again, the innocent murmurs comes between the timing of the murmur will be if you have a fever or anemia, you may have a murmur. Once the fever settles, the murmur will disappear. So the murmurs, you really don't need to worry about it. As long as you noted some murmur and you assess with other signs and symptoms to refer to the pediatric cardiologist. We don't need to refer all the cases to the pediatric cardiologist. You can assess the children for some time and assess how their weight gain and how they are breathing and what's the saturation. These are the important things. So when you have the murmurs, congenital heart diseases, you get the murmurs, systolic murmurs and diastolic murmurs. As long as you noted some murmur and if you think the child may have the congenital heart disease, by using other parameters, you can refer to them. And rheumatic heart disease, obviously the history is important. If somebody present with a murmur and the previous history of joint pains, you can suspect rheumatic heart disease. The Kawasaki disease, that's the fever for more than 5 days in a child, you have to suspect. And the family history, that's very important. I think like you, as a family practitioner, you know the family history. If there is a history of some heart diseases, particularly with the hypertrophic obstructive cardiomyopathy will run in the family. If someone have the obstructive cardiomyopathy, you have to screen whole family. So this is all about the murmurs and the precardium. The chest pain. This is again one of the very important. Whoever practices pediatrics, you see in your practice this chest pain. Children will present with chest pain, particularly from 8 years to 16 years. That's the age where they complain about this chest pain. So the good news, it's 97% of the chest pain is non-cardiac. Only 3% will be the cardiac pain. So non-cardiac, again, we will divide it into musculoskeletal is the commonest one, and pulmonary is the other one, gastrointestinal. Sometimes there will be some psychosomatic and miscellaneous pains, like there will be a pain from arising from the breast and the Other common miscellaneous is the precordial cap syndrome. This will be, they describe, it's a sudden pain and it happens only in the precordial region. So it won't spread to other areas. It's only in the heart, so wherever the heart located, the precordium area only you have the pain. It's a very catchy pain and it comes suddenly and it goes away. So this is a very common pain. Children will complain. You can reassure confidently and you don't need to refer to the further evaluation. And idiopathic, some of the causes, and so only cardiac is 3 to 4%. So these are the pain. For this 3 to 4%, sometimes we may need to send other even non-cardiac chest pain to the pediatric cardiologist. So what are the causes of chest pain in the cardiac region? So if you, again you divide it into congenital, acquired and miscellaneous. The congenital causes will be obstruction to the left ventricular outflow tract like aortic stenosis, HOCM. This will come under any obstruction to the aortic flow, you may have the pain. It is similar to ischemic pain. And pulmonary hypertension. Children will have pulmonary hypertension present with the chest pain. So pulmonary hypertension, how to pick up? It's very easy to pick up pulmonary hypertension. You see the saturations will be low, and if you give some oxygen, it may not even improve the saturation. Some of initial stages, pulmonary hypertension may improve, but as time goes, it may not improve. So saturations are important to pick up pulmonary hypertension. And again, even if you don't have a pulse oximeter, it's very obvious you may have a clubbing. So clubbing, and if it is a, obviously differentiating clubbing from respiratory cause is important, but if you have a clubbing and if the saturations are low and if there is a previous history of a heart problem, you have to suspect pulmonary hypertension. That will cause pain. And mitral valve prolapse. This is very common in adolescent girls where they have the pain and associated with the mitral valve prolapse. And coronary artery abnormalities. I think you may be most of you may know about this one. Basically, similar to myocardial infarction, you get a condition called ALCAPA. What is ALCAPA? ALCAPA is the anomalous left coronary artery from the pulmonary artery. Instead of coronary artery arising from the aorta, it arises from the pulmonary artery. They will presented with the incessant cry at the age of around 2 to 3 months time. They have, this is the cry is because of this anomalous coronary artery. Instead of arising from aorta, it arises from the pulmonary artery. Basically, deoxygenated blood goes to the coronary. That's equivalent to heart attack in newborn babies. So this is very, very rare condition. It occurs in 1 in 1 lakh newborn babies. So it's very unusual, but you have to just aware. If you have an incessant cry and if you have a murmur and incessant cry, and if the classical incessant cry, they will have the pain, they will say about this pain, you have to suspect this. That's very rare, but it's just awareing that one. It's going to be useful if you have a newborn baby with a murmur and incessant cry. What are the acquired causes? As we all know, the acquired causes of rheumatic fever, where if you have endocarditis or pericarditis or myocarditis, any carditis will cause some acquired chest pain. And Kawasaki disease, they have the issues with the coronaries. So Kawasaki disease is a disease where it occurs mostly in children, and it causes the problems having a fever for more than 5 days and the rash, fever more than 5 days, and conjunctivitis. It's non-exudative. Like if you have, these are the symptoms and signs, you have to think about Kawasaki disease, and it occurs in children, and Kawasaki disease causes maybe 2 to 3% of children develop coronary aneurysms. So coronary artery will become aneurysm. That will again, because of the coronary involvement, they may have chest pain. So miscellaneous is very rare things like aortic dissection. Aortic dissection is very common in adults having a problem with aorta, but it occurs in children. Marfan. Whenever you see a tall child with the other signs suggestive of Marfan, that child needs a pediatric cardiology assessment to assess the aortic root. So these are the few causes for the chest pain. Yes, what are the palpitations? This is again very common thing children will complain. So palpitations, you have to just to see the what are the timing they are telling and how long it lasts, and so when it how it starts and how it ends. Usually, so if they say for a few seconds, you can ignore it. But if it lasts for a longer and it associated with the loss of consciousness, is a very serious thing. Whenever you have a palpitation associated with the loss of consciousness, you have to take it very serious and you have to refer that to the pediatric cardiology. And again, we have a problem whenever the news comes and the children will have a problem in the school. We read in the media, suddenly a child died in the while playing. When these things happen, that whole school, the children will come with these palpitation types, and we always worry about these things. So athletics participation, they will ask, and you should aware cause of sudden death in young adult. So following are the causes of sudden death in the young adult that we can't sometimes prevent, because we can't see for all the children assessing the cardiac. It's not possible. If there is a family history, you have to assess for the open, the hypertrophic obstructive cardiomyopathy. And if there is any coronary artery anomalies like Alcapa or Kawasaki disease, then you have to suspect. And aortic rupture and Marfan syndrome and aortic stenosis. Aortic stenosis children will have the pulse is bit lower volume, and you may have the murmur. These are the few causes of sudden death in the young adult. So they may present with a palpitation. So the children who presented with the palpitations, we may need to rule out these things. So if it is long lasting, if it happens regularly and it affects their sometimes the loss of consciousness, or it has the family history. So two things to remember: when somebody complains with palpitations, as a physician, you ask for two things. One is a family history, or there is a loss of consciousness. If there is a no family history, no loss of consciousness, that's more reassuring. They may not have a major problem with the palpitation. But if you have the palpitations with a family history of sudden death and if there is loss of consciousness, you have to take it very serious. Yes, so I was talking about antenatal scans. So antenatal scans, and you may have heard about there is a difference between a fetal cardiologist and a radiologist. The radiologist.
Sorry to interrupt, sir. Sir, we have the time limit is up. If you can take finish in another 2-3 minutes, it might be good, sir.
Okay, that's fine.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. So I will just talk to you about a quick thing. I think this is a key message you can take for the congenital heart disease, how to pick up. So only I think whatever I was talking about so far, even if you don't remember, it's fine. But you remember these 4 things. That's more than enough for this session. So the weight, forelimb saturation, femoral pulse, respiratory rate. If you do these 4 things, again, you don't really need to do, your assistant can help or your staff nurse can help. Doing a weight and forelimb saturation, femoral pulse, respiratory rate. These 4 things will pick up all the congenital heart diseases in a chat. So the management part, it comes reassurance, medical management, catheter management, and surgical management. So this depends on the condition. So I was thinking about to talk about a bit of MISC, but I think because of the time, probably I will skip this slide. And in summary, the congenital heart disease is the most common congenital malformation. It is the commonest cause of death among a congenital malformation in infants. It's very important to remember classification to decide on management. Early diagnosis prevents morbidity and mortality. Correction can be offered for most of the cases. I think I will stop here. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for that elaborate talk. Are there any questions to sir? We can take many questions. So if there are questions. So if not, maybe I can ask, since you're a fetal cardiologist, the other cardiology is like way too high for us. Like, sir, do you think nowadays we have gotten a protocol to have a fetal echo of all the pregnancies around 24-25 weeks? Do you think that's cost effective to do that? And what is your idea on that?
So as personally, I don't recommend to do fetal echoes for everyone. So the fetal echoes can be done for the families who have previous siblings having the heart defects and the maternal diabetes and mother on medications and mother having rash and fever together. So these are the IVF pregnancies, twin pregnancies. So only the special cases they can go for a fetal echocardiogram at the 20 weeks of gestation age. That's where the decision making time. If there is a major cardiac problem, we can offer them whether the reassurance or termination that mother and father can take that time. So 20-week scan for the high risk families is advisable, but as such we don't really do it for all the babies because if you average in Tamil Nadu, we got per year some 10 lakh deliveries. I don't think so we can do all 10 lakh deliveries, but the recommendation is simple. Whoever does anomaly scan, we expect them to note down to have 4 chambers of the heart. It's very important to say like this is, I don't know whether you're able to see, as long as any anomaly scan, anybody does anomaly scan, they are able to pick up this slide. They're able to see the baby's heart like this. That means that can be correctable lesion. If you can't see like this 4 chamber, then that they have to make sure the parents aware of this one. So 4 chamber view is the key view that should be all the people, all the whoever is doing this scan, anomaly scan should be able to pick up. If you're able to pick up this one, that's really reassuring that we can have something, even there is a heart problem, we can correct it. If you don't see chamber view, then sometimes we can't really do anything for the babies, and the child may not survive more than 10 years and they may need 3 surgeries in their life. So these are the so many complications. So it's a recommendation and it's good to anomaly scan person can able to pick up this 4 chamber view.
Sir, it's become a routine that along with the 4 chamber view, you also do a LVOT, REOT and 3 vessel view along with that. I was just wondering, since we have a fetal echo again, if Dr. Deepti is here, I think you can put in your views here, Dr. Deepti.
Yes, Dr. Priya. Just so thank you for including me. And yes, I agree with Dr. Prasad sir, because we routinely in an anomaly scan, we do a complete cardiac evaluation. And if we find any specific, that is like gross anomalies in the fetal heart, we do a straight away fetal echo as early as 19 to 20 weeks. So between 20 to 24 weeks, we have actually started seeing the heart very closely, even 12 to 13 weeks scan. So we are also seeing a color flowing into the color flow to the chamber, 4 chamber and arches as well as early as in 3rd month. Obviously, if we suspect any differences in that, we're going to call them back in an early target. I completely agree with sir, because routinely fetal echo might not be cost effective, at least as of now. But if we are suspecting either in a high risk mother or if we are suspecting any cardiac anomaly in the fetus, never too late, at least at 20 weeks, I think we should be able to pick up anomalies. 24 weeks, I think as sir said,